القصة هي قصة النفايات السياسية.
Good afternoon. You're watching the English newscast on Future Television. I'm Yumna Naufal, and these are today's top stories. The UN Security Council calls on Lebanon's parliament to elect a new president in order to ease a political crisis that has fueled protests. Health Minister Wael Abu Faoud vows not to tolerate corruption in the health sector due to the enormous risk it poses to the health of citizens. And the waste management sector in Lebanon should be decentralized, according to Agriculture Minister Shia. He argues that this could facilitate canceling municipalities' debts. The UN Security Council is calling on Lebanon's parliament to elect a new president to help ease a political crisis that has fueled street protests. The appeal comes after Lebanese lawmakers again failed in their 28th bid to elect a new president and fill the post left vacant since May of 2014. The deadlock in parliament took place against the backdrop of street protests first sparked by frustration over rubbish collection, but that has since mushroomed into anger at Lebanon's political class. After hearing a report from UN Special Coordinator for Lebanon, Sigrid Kaag, the 15-member council expressed support for the government. Russian Ambassador Vitaly Churkin said that the council members are calling on parliament to meet and elect a president as soon as possible in order to put an end to the constitutional instability. Now, Churkin, whose country still holds this month's presidency of the council. Health Minister Wael Abu Faoud is vowing not to tolerate corruption in the health sector due to the enormous risk it poses to the health of citizens. Corruption in the health sector will not be disregarded or tolerated, Health Minister Wael Abu Faoud said, emphasizing that the ministry will not hesitate to deal with violators. Abu Faoud noted that political rivals cannot tell not to confront corruption because it threatens the health of Lebanese citizens. The minister cited the recent boom medical clinics, noting that some of them become similar to trade markets that had suspicious motives and exploited the health of people. The health ministry on May 22nd granted all medical clinics with outstanding health violations a period of time to carry out reforms. Abu Faoud lashed out at other violating clinics that did not even go through the trouble of improving their conditions. The Free Patriotic Movement staged another motorized protest on Wednesday to mobilize supporters ahead of Friday's downtown Beirut demonstration. The convoys gathered outside the Mina Shalouhi Center in Sin el-Fil before roaming several towns in the villages of Metin. LBC Television said one of the convoys briefly blocked the presidential palace's main entrance in Babda to demand the election of a strong president. State-run National News Agency, meanwhile, said Republican Guard troops took strict security measures around the palace over reports that young men from the Free Patriotic Movement, led by Michel Aoun, will head to the presidential palace. The agency said meetings aimed at preparing for Friday's demos were held at the FPM office in the Mina Shalouhi centers. The waste management sector in Lebanon should be decentralized, Agriculture Minister Shia says, arguing that this could be facilitated by canceling municipalities' debts. The minister, who was tasked by Prime Minister Tamam Salam with forming a new committee of specialists to develop swift solutions to Lebanon's ongoing trash crisis, said he managed to reach point of agreement with environmental committees regarding the issue. The committee held its first meeting on Tuesday. And the Agriculture Minister also called for canceling loans that constitute a heavy burden on municipalities before transferring the garbage file to them. Commenting on the garbage overflowing into the Beirut River, Shia said he considered the current state of waste management in the country a disaster. British Hamoud is currently dumping its trash into a pit by the Beirut River, according to Anatrik Mesarlian, the mayor of British Hamoud, but garbage is clearly visible lining both banks of the river. Coming up next, Mexican developers release a new video game in which players can throw soccer balls at Donald Trump. Stay with us. Welcome back. You're watching the 4:20 o'clock news here on Future Television. The Islamic State group has claimed the twin bombings of a Shia mosque that killed at least 28 people and wounded 75 in the Yemeni capital. The Sunni extremist group, which has claimed similar bombings in the past, said a man named Qusay as-Sanani blew himself inside the mosque and that a bomb-laden vehicle parked nearby subsequently exploded. The attack was to avenge Muslims against the Rafida, according to the statement on Twitter. ISIS has claimed similar bombings of Shia mosques in Sanaa. It considers Shias to be heretics and has also bombed their mosques in Kuwait and Saudi Arabia. Witnesses earlier gave a slightly different account, saying the suicide attack took place outside the mosque, after which a bomb-laden car driven by another suicide attacker exploded. But a security official quoted SabaNews.net, the website of the Shia rebels controlling the capital, and confirmed that the ISIS account of the incident. U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry met with Saudi Arabia's Foreign Minister Adel Al-Jubeir at the State Department in Washington. The meeting took place on the eve of a visit of King Salman of Saudi Arabia to the United States. Secretary of State John Kerry brought the Obama administration's campaign for public and congressional support for the Iran nuclear deal to Philadelphia. In a speech at the National Constitution Center, Kerry made the case that the agreement is the best way to prevent Iran from obtaining a nuclear weapon. He said critics have presented no reasonable alternative and that rejecting it would damage America's standing in the world. Kerry also sought to dispel what the administration said are a litany of myths about the deal.
Last month, 29 of our nation's top nuclear physicists and Nobel Prize winners, scientists, from one end of the country to the other, congratulated the President for what they called, quote, a technically sound, stringent, and innovative deal that will provide the necessary assurance that Iran is not developing nuclear weapons. Internationally, the agreement is being backed, with one exception, by each of the more than 100 countries that have taken a formal position. The agreement was also endorsed by the United Nations Security Council on a vote of 15-0. Without this agreement, Iran's so-called breakout time was about 2 months. With this agreement, it will increase by a factor of 6 to at least a year, and it will remain at that level for a decade or more. Without this agreement, Iran could double the number of its operating centrifuges almost overnight and continue expanding with ever more efficient designs. With this agreement, Iran's centrifuges will be reduced by 2/3 for 10 years. If we say to Iran now, hey, forget it, the deal is off, let's go back to square one, how do you think our negotiating partners, all of whom have embraced this deal, will react? All of whom are prepared to go forward with it, how will they react? What do you think will happen to that multilateral sanctions regime that brought Iran to the bargaining table in the first place? The answer is pretty simple. The answer is straightforward. Not only will we lose the momentum that we have built up in pressing Iran to limit its nuclear activities, we will almost surely start moving in the opposite direction.
U.S. President Barack Obama said Alaska's warming climate was a wake-up call to America and should be a wake-up call to the rest of the world, too. Obama made the comment in Kotzebue, a small town north of the Arctic Circle that is home to some 3,000 people. His visit there was designed to snap the country to attention by illustrating the ways warmer temperatures had already threatened entire communities and ways of life in Alaska. Obama said that despite progress in reducing greenhouse gases, the planet continued to warm up and said the U.S. was not doing enough to stop it.
One of the reasons I came up here is to really focus on what is probably the biggest challenge our planet faces. If there's one thing that threatens opportunity and prosperity for everybody, wherever we live, it's the threat of a changing climate. I don't need to tell people here in Alaska what's happening. If another country threatened to wipe out an American town, we'd do everything in our power to protect it. Well, climate change poses the same threat right now. And that's why I care so deeply about this. If we do nothing, temperatures in Alaska are projected to rise between 6 and 12 degrees by the end of the century. That means more melting, more fires, more erosion, more thawing of the permafrost, more warming after that. And it threatens all of us with hardship, not just people up north. The planet's already getting warmer. And so communities are already going to be affected. And that's especially pressing here in Alaska. And that's why today I'm announcing that the Denali Commission will serve as a central coordinator in building what we call climate resilience, helping people adapt. And this is going to cut through bureaucracy and red tape, frees up communities like yours to develop and implement solutions for events like coastal erosion and flooding and permafrost degradation. To boost tourism, America is full of dreamers. We push new frontiers by choice. That's what makes us Americans. Whether we live in the Arctic Circle or on the Hawaiian Islands, whether we're in big cities or small towns, we're one people. And our future is only as good as the efforts that we put into it. But when people are determined and hopeful and generous, as the people here in Kotzebue are, it makes me optimistic. It tells me that this country's best days are still ahead.
Mexican developers have released a new video game in which players can throw soccer balls, thorny nopal cactus leaves, and tequila bottles at Donald Trump. The game is called Trumpealo, which roughly translates as Trump him. The game opens when Trump cartoon character appears on stage and repeats offensive phrases like "Mexico is not our friend" or "Latins are rapists." A range of missiles appears at the bottom of the screen, and the player taps a shoe or a bowling ball to throw it the lofty-haired businessman. As more and more objects hit the Republican presidential hopeful, he is driven further and further away from the stage. Georgia Suarez, the chief executive officer of Cara Oculta All Games, well, he said he wanted to create something for Mexicans to express their frustration with Trump, who is leading in the polls among his Republican rivals. Suarez says he's even received requests from Trump supporters to modify the game so players could throw flowers or money at the character. And the director of Taylor Swift's new music video is defending the singer after some claimed she whitewashed her video based in Africa. Joseph Kahn said in a statement that the video for Wildest Dreams includes black people and was produced by a black woman and edited by a black man. Kahn, who directed Swift's Blank Space and Bad Blood, is Asian. Wildest Dreams is set in 1950s Africa and portrays Swift as an actress who falls in love with her co-star on the set, the son of actor Clint Eastwood. Black actors are seen in some of the clips from a distance. Khan said that they collectively decided it would have been historically inaccurate to load the crew with more black actors, as the video would have been accused of rewriting history. This video is set in the past by a crew set in the present. And on that note, we end our bulletin today, and now for a reminder of our headlines. The UN Security Council calls on Lebanon's parliament to elect a new president to help ease a political crisis that has fueled street protests. Health Minister Wael Abu Faoud vows not to tolerate corruption in the health sector due to the enormous risk it poses to the health of citizens. And the waste management sector in Lebanon should be decentralized, Agriculture Minister Akram Shia says, arguing that this could be facilitated by canceling municipalities' debts. Those are your headlines here live on Future Television. Catch us again tomorrow for all the latest. I'm Yumna Naufal, signing off. Good night.
القصة هي قصة النفايات السياسية.